So let's get started.
Okay,
Monitor. Yeah. Welcome to another episode of the Monitor Keeping Podcast. I'm here with Kai again, and we're going to have Alex from Sim Container on as our guest today. We're using a little bit of different platform to get everything going, so it's new to us, so I don't think there'll be any issues, but just bear with us if we pause or we're looking around at our computers here trying to figure things out. How you guys doing?
Yeah, not bad, man. Busy.
Let me see. Alex, say something real quick. I want to make sure I can hear you.
What's going on, everyone?
Oh, there it is.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No worries. All right, guys. So, again, we want to say thank you guys for tuning in, for listening. We're part of the, I feel all off right now, the whole cadence and everything with this new program. Yeah. We're part of the the Morelia Python Radio Network. So, guys, if you're not familiar with them, go ahead and check out MoreliaPythonRadio.com. Check out their website. Check out their store. You're also going to scroll down and see all the podcasts that are under the umbrella there. And they pretty much cover everything you can think of. I think there's even a couple new ones, or maybe one new one coming out. So I look forward to that. I believe it's going to be about colubrids and a lot of good information from some good guys. That being said, I guess we can jump right in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. This is Kai here, and we've got Alex from Sim Container on today, and really it'll be a monitor conversation, but I do have a couple specific questions regarding the Nucellus species that you're working with. I mean, water monitors in general for a lot of the beginners that have basically been messaging us and asking us questions that they'd love for us to answer. And I mean, why not have the only person really working with them in the United States answer them for them? So really, it just clicked in. This lady, her name is Laura Nicole, and she messaged me like maybe several days ago, like about a week ago, not even. And she's like, yeah, what question? Do you have like any information on that species, and really, I haven't dug back into the water monitor world in quite a while. I mean, I've been paying attention to the new stuff and, like just the new breedings and things like that, stuff being proven with some of the formerly thought genetics and lineage and stuff like that of some of the actually animals that come into the States. But there's quite a variety, and literally you can kind of get lost. And I'm already lost in the mangrove stuff, so I don't have a whole nother index for Salvatore itself, but we do have Alex here, and John would be his other half, but is also another water monitor legend, and great information and knowledge with just these two guys alone. But yeah, man, tell us about that project, and how it kind of got started, if you don't mind.
Well, it's been that project itself has been a long process. We found some animals that were actually posted on King Snake back in 2015 or 16. They were brought in with a bunch of Philippine turtles and tortoises. So it was a group of Nucellus, some Coming Eye, and some Marmoratus that came in. We jumped on that whole lot of monitor lizards right away. So being that they were wild caught animals, it was obviously a big challenge getting them acclimated to captivity. And it wasn't until 2019 that we got our first viable eggs from the small group that we were able to bring in. So been a very long-term project. It's a limited gene pool, but we're trying to make it work as much as possible. So right now we're at
the whiteheads, right?
Yeah, the whiteheads. So we have whiteheads, and then one of the adult males was also a black animal. So we had 2 clutches of white to whites and 2 clutches of black to whiteheads. So far we've had 4 clutches. from 2019 until this year. So we just finished hatching our last clutch not too long ago, actually. So it's been
Nice.
limited success, but we'll take every single kid that comes along. So, but it's been quite a journey, because it's probably the only working group in the United States right now, probably in the world, even in zoological collections. So we're trying to be as careful as we possibly can with it. So
Yeah. Now, what would be the difference between the black and white? Is there much of a difference other than certain physical characteristics just looking at them?
The black animal, the adult male that's black, is actually a larger animal. Other than color, I would say that the only differentiating thing between the groups that we have. So right now we have John has a couple of babies that I hatched, and then I kept back a few, and we sold a few here and there. But what we held back so far, in terms of the black animals, with the white female and the white to white, all the white to white animals have retained a smaller size versus the ones that went black to white kind of took on the dad's genes and got a little bit bigger in size. But I think it's all island endemic, very much like Indicus. The white animals for some reason just stayed smaller, despite the fact that they came in as adults. They didn't grow very much, whereas the black ones got quite big. So the male is almost 5.5 feet long, whereas the white male is only 4 feet long. Quite a big difference.
Yeah, no kidding. I've seen yours before to some degree, but I didn't realize that they were that much smaller than. I still think water monitor, you're at a 6 foot minimum in my mind.
Yeah.
It's just it shuts off. It just pictures big lizard needs water, shuts off.
4 foot is kind of workable because that's what my stuff are now. But I mean, still though, to have all that, now you're housing for them. I mean, you were recommending me to basically do the cage partitions that have been somewhat successful so far, and I've only tried them for the last couple months, so they're actually pretty good on helping my animals not destroy each other. But I mean, are you able to go over some of your caging aspects and how you just work with them as far as for the beginners to understand how you're working with the breeding groups individually, maybe some of the babies as well?
Sure. So it's pretty straightforward. I actually don't keep them with large water features like you would other types of Salvatore, Macromaculatus vividatus, or anything like that. I actually give them a shallow, snake tub. Basically, it's basically a shoebox sized, smaller type water dish where they can get in and get out. They don't have very laterally compressed tails by comparison to the larger Salvatore types. So it just inclined, it kind of gives evidence to the evolution of the animals in that whole Philippine archipelago, specifically with Nucalus and Coming Eye, where they're not as laterally compressed and therefore not requiring such large water features. By any means, there's a lot of people out there that give them large water features, and I'm sure they're going to utilize them. But being that I saw this feature and I thought to myself, well, if I can do this without having to give them a large water feature, it saves a lot of space for me and a lot on the maintenance part of it as well, which it did. So the adults are housed right now in 3-way cages. So it's partitioned down the middle with the male in the middle, and then it's got like a trap door where I can just unhinge and then let the latch down, and then the male can go to either side with either female. So as soon as I see signs of a female going through the motions of ovulation and things like that, I let the male right in and he does his thing. And then as soon as she starts kicking his butt, then he goes right back to the middle. And that usually happens somewhere around the 18 to 20 day mark. They're usually laying eggs right around 26, 27 days. And then if one female goes, usually the other female's going right after that. It's a competition thing with these females, and as soon as they see that one female goes through it and the other one wants to go through it right away. So it's about survival of the fittest, making sure that your genetics are going on to the next generation for sure. So you can kind of see like that microevolution happening inside your wooden box.
Yeah.
Hatchlings are very straightforward. I modify exoterras, or I have, now that I've gotten rid of most of my exoterras, I have most of the babies in PVC cages. Your basic setup, cocoa husk, a couple hides so that, they grow accustomed to you when you come in and tom feed and they're not bouncing around everywhere. So they know that you're the person that's giving them, their nutrients and stuff like that. So, just like any other monitor lizard, again, I only offer a small, water feature where they just get in and get out and do their thing in there. They do like to climb. Nucallis is, very arboreal for being a Salvatore type. They do like to get it up and around. So I do have like a lot of vertical branches and a lot of horizontal branches. And then I screwed a lot of cork tiles onto the cage. Make sure that they're the thick kind. The Zoom Med kinds are really good because they're like 1.5 inches thick, and they can withstand the claws. So they do utilize a lot of that vertical space, which is cool.
No, I want to ask, because these observations you made about basically the compressed tail, or the lack of a compressed tail compared to some other water monitors, is that something that you knew about prior, or was that something you just figured out once you actually had them in hand and saw them?
It was actually once we saw them in hand. We always think these Salvatore types are all going to be kind of like the same because they all, derived from pretty much the same ancestry, and they all, develop those same features, those same characteristics. And you can see that in some Indicus types too, where they'll have like a laterally compressed tail has a higher crest than others.
Mm-hmm.
It just means that they're more water adapted, and it just depends on where they come from too, I guess. But yeah, I noticed this and thought to myself, why give them such a large water feature when they're probably not like a black dragon would, or silver or something like that. So
yeah, man, that's a great observation too, because like we've kind of been talking about, you're the only one working with them really in the US, so to actually have something in your hands and now you're trying to figure out this animal, and I almost wonder if it's in closer relation to a different ancestor rather than, or maybe even like a natural overlapping or hybridization of I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things over there in the Philippines. So
they got fruit eating monitor lizards, so
right,
it's definitely a great place to see Darwin's theory taking effect with monitor lizards. In a very small archipelago by comparison to like Indicus, which is gigantic, right? It spans from like one side of, Indonesia all the way to the other side of like far, far, far out into the Pacific Ocean. So, but you get to see it in a small archipelago, and even from one island to another, which is only, a few hundred miles apart, you're getting some of these really, really neat and diverse modifications, I guess you could say, to just being able to adapt to that particular island.
Sorry, I was interrupting the guest questions that Kai already has.
No, we're good. He's gonna answer them as we go through the stuff anyway, so it's not like
Yeah.
And the list of questions is there's just a few good questions, Now, all right, from when you have little guys and then the bigger guys as well, what are you feeding them compared to size? Or are they eating just about the same thing? With my guys, even the babies, they're just eating minced up of what the adults eat.
That's basically it. It's all minced up of what the adults eat. So it's, I don't really feed insects to these larger species just because of the fact that it would take a lot.
Yeah.
But when I do have an excess amount of dubias, I'll throw in a couple dubias, but they go after boiled egg right away. They go right after pinkies and fuzzies right away. So I just don't even bother with the insects because they're just, getting whole prey item, and they're becoming, they tend to grow a little bit faster on that diet, and you get to combat metabolic bone disease a little bit better with that whole prey item than you would with insects. So especially in my hot garage in the middle of summer here in Northern California, when sometimes it reaches 112, 14 degrees or whatever it is. MBD can be a big problem with babies. So the more you can pump into them, the better.
And that's okay. So just so anybody listening, what you're saying is there's a direct relation from the heat that these monitors are exposed to, and to their food intake in relations to we say MBD, but maybe just growth complications across the board, right? They need a certain amount of nutrition, sustenance to grow at the rate that they're already growing at, just because it's hot. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
100%. I mean, the thing is, these animals are meant to eat, and then, they hide after they have a large meal, and then they come back out when that's happened, when they've digested and they've got a bunch of different microclimates in their native habitats. Whereas, we have a bunch of boxes all pumping each animal with 45, 65 watt bulbs. So, heating in the summer and feeding in the summer go hand in hand. You pretty much have to feed every day in order to keep up with their skeletal growth. So it's super important that, you don't cut corners, and you're always supplementing the meals as much as possible, so that, you don't get animals with glass jaw or some kind of, spinal deformity because you decided to skip out and not give them the proper nutrition that they need.
Yeah.
And skipping out, even though some people may not consider it, skipping out would be using ground turkey all the time and then not anything for bone. Even though that's a diet that many people use. Even all three of us happen to use it here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But skipping a corner would be not using whole prey and then going with something like that, and then not even touching it up to the point where it's sustainable more, so, or just feeding egg or even, just a single kind of diet where you're not really giving it variety, and then also making sure there's good bone and nutritional content within that also. Those are what we mean when we're talking about skipping corners for a monitor lizard, because it may be in the greatness of your heart for them and all that stuff like that, and you may not want them to be so aggressive, and so you give them this other diet, or it's easier to put together, afford, and you can kind of meal prep it, right? But you don't want to just skip it on your animal with the right type of diet at all.
And everyday feeding, I think, was what you were also alluding to, Alex, was just in the summer when it's hot. If you live in an area where you can cool down your animals and you can give them a nighttime drop, and you got more control over the temperatures, then you can do things a little differently. But we're all out here in California. Kai's like in the high desert. I'm in Northern California. Alex is in Northern California. And sometimes we're at the mercy of the 113 degree day. Actually, probably hotter where you are, Alex. Do you even get the Delta breeze out there? I know for me, like, we get the Delta breeze, so it comes through and cools things off in the evening.
Yeah, we get it. Usually starts around, actually it starts around this time right now, but before this, there's absolutely no tree movement at all, and it gets pretty bad. So I pretty much run reverse lights all year round, because in the wintertime it can be chilly. And then some of my tropical species I can't brumate, like my Australian stuff. So I run reverse lights. So everything kicks on a timer at night, even in the summer, but just for a shorter period of time. And then when I wake up in the morning, I'll manually switch everything on for a couple of hours, so they still get a good amount of heat, so that they can digest food and stuff like that.
But very similar to what I kind of have to do here.
You just got to improvise.
So some lights are on, like right now. I'll have like all the baby Kimberly lights are on. Most of the Kimberleys are on at night during the day, my bad, or off at nighttime, but on during the day, because their cages are kind of smaller. And so they're spread out throughout the house too. So heating those throughout the day isn't so bad. It actually keeps the ambient warmth up a little bit from what the AC does to the house, right? And then my all my bigger cages, all the 6 and 8 foot cages are on only during the nighttime. So I'm basically having monitor action all day, but dang, it is getting tiring though when you got to wake up in the middle of the night, and then that's like when all the action happens, you know. It's because the guys that are now awake at nighttime basically are doing stuff when it's the still of the night, nothing's moving, you're asleep, you know. You're not in the kitchen doing stuff, and they know, and they're out. Yeah.
They get into these patterns where they start recognizing, their activity and what's happening. So they reckon. I mean, I've been doing it for 3 years now that I've been in California.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different because in Florida I had access to outdoor caging for a lot of my Indo stuff, so it was fine. There was no problem at all. You know, they were outside in the heat and humidity pretty much 10 months out of the year, and then a couple of cooler nights they would come in. But here, you definitely have to adjust your husbandry.
That's crazy that we're actually talking about this situation. Me and Alan were talking about this actual situation with you when you moved over here. I was like, man, he probably had to like adjust and kind of just think differently because you're in California. It's a bit hotter for sure. Even though Florida is humid, that's what makes it seem so hot,
Right.
But here it's dry. You basically are working against the weather a little bit, especially when it gets really hot. When it's cool, it's perfect. But when it's hot, it's like everything is basically in danger. So, having to improvise and being able to set up stuff. I think Alan just set up a swamp cooler in your thing, right?
Yeah, it's a portable, like evaporative cooler. Went over to the Home Depot. I found one that held 15 gallons, and got a timer on it, a couple different fan settings. And the big thing was the air conditioner unit I have. It's like heating and air for the space. It's 1,300 watts when the thing's pumping cool air, and so the cooler is like 250 watts. So there's a big difference in how much electricity it's pulling. But it's also adding in a good amount of humidity. So my humidity went from about like 15-20% up to 50%, just probably within, 3 hours of it being on in the room. So I'm actually really happy with it. It's winter's still a different subject, but but for the summer, as far as cooling it off, I'm turning off the light. Usually, I guess mine's kind of flipped too. Like I'll go in at night, I'll flip the lights back on, feeding things, and then I'll come back in the morning and I will just turn off the lights. And then probably about noon, I'm flipping on that cooler. And so I know for what I've tested so far, that 15 gallons will give me about 9 hours. So as long as I get over there before that,
not bad.
Yeah, I try to get on the cooling process. It seems to help out rather than starting it right when it's starting to heat up.
Yeah.
I've messed with it for, a week now, and that seems to be working all right for me. But, that incubator's in there too. And that's what has to take precedence over things. And actually, Alex, where's your incubator? Are you running in the same room as the animals?
No, definitely not.
It's in the house?
Yeah, the incubator's in the house underneath a stairwell. So there's a closet that goes in and around a stairwell. And it's all my incubators are in there.
And the temperature in that little thing is conserved within the Harry Potter closet, right? That's what it is.
Yep. Yeah. So there's a little bit of a drop off in the wintertime, but it's not substantial.
Yeah.
So I don't really have to make any adjustments to my incubation.
Yeah.
I have a couple of species under there that need cooler temperatures. So when I kick on their heat lights, it really stabilizes everything in the wintertime. Right now, everything's just running on UV. So
that's cool. For my, I don't know if I'm not having that poor of success with this new incubator, right? So I've now been able to hatch out the Kimberleys in it. I have indicus eggs in it right now. So I'm expecting those to hatch in a few months. I am basically experiencing hot and cold temperatures fluctuations because I'm keeping my incubator in my room because my reptile room would just get so hot.
Right.
So I didn't really want to deal with that, and I'd prefer cooler. But I have a feeling with, like, just obviously we can't sleep in 85 degrees and be comfortable and stuff like that. So I really want to get the room down to like 70s, right? 75, 78, something like that. A little bit. I mean, even though that doesn't sound that cool, but it's a lot cooler than 85, 86, 90 degrees. And so, which it does get here in the daytime. Like right now, it's 81 in this room. And so when I'm trying to get the temperatures down, I think it meshes with the pressure a little bit, and then I'll notice condensation within the containers, and what I've been thinking about doing is actually, even though I've always been against it, I'm not really going to use them for reptile cages, but I was just thinking about just getting a grow tent and putting my incubator in the grow tent, so that way that area within that area of that's surrounding the incubator is protected, and it's not drastically changing so much. It'll just be the temperature that the incubator lets off, and so I'm gonna try it, but I haven't bought the thing yet. It's only because I don't want to change anything now currently that I'm hatching stuff, so I don't want to fix anything all of a sudden that's not broken, really. But if I do have issues with eggs, I think popping and pressure issues and just the temperature fluctuation alone for the incubator, I'll have to set it up in something better. Just because, the eggs are the end result is very important. And when you got to deal with like heat spikes, temperature issues, the cold is not really an issue, but when it's the cold affecting the incubator itself, then it becomes, the tricky part of having success rates go down because of whatever's happening.
Are you using a fridge?
What happened?
Are you using a fridge for your incubator?
I was, but I ended up at that show that I met you guys, or I saw you at in Pomona, right? I think it was Pomona. I bought a hot box at that show.
Yeah, those are the best. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I really couldn't turn my nose at it. It was something that I've been wanting to do. It looks professional. The current incubator that I had a busted front door from moving from Northern California to Southern California, so I was due to get one anyways. But yeah, just learning it and really going through the motions with it. I was at one point thinking that the fan was gonna mess up my eggs, so I have a cup of water at the base of that to make up for the dryness that I live in. I mean, just around here, it's just so dry. We don't even get that ocean breeze at all.
So, I'll package some up and mail it down to you, Kai. Open the boxes.
Living in San Jose and living in Sunnyvale, California, man, it's basically the marina right there. And so it's just full on fog in the morning, and it actually benefited what I was doing because I didn't have to spray much. But now I got to keep much more soil. All that stuff needs to be taken care of like monthly rather than just letting it sit. And so,
So we're trying a little experiment now. I think Alex is on the move.
Yeah, sorry guys, I got to get mobile, but I'm staying on.
Yeah, we'll see how it works over the cell service.
So you're going to the room right now, or?
No, my daughter has soccer practice.
Oh, all right.
So he's fitting us in. We thank you for coming on. He's a busy man. He got things going on.
That's cool, man.
We could have done this. We could have. Alan gave me a bunch of different times. I was like, well, as long as my self service is okay, then we can do this. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So far so good. He's out of the house. We're
gonna do a play-by-play.
Yeah. But actually, Kai, I don't know if I should. I haven't talked to you, Kai, in like 2 weeks. I think we didn't record last week, did we?
No, that's because of the 4th of July stuff. Yeah.
Things got a little busy, and so I haven't actually talked to Kai other than just some quick messages here and there. But Alex has been kind enough to be tempting me.
How does that affect the bromance?
we're both adults. We get to it when we can. We understand that we have our other lives going on. You know.
Yeah, we got a lot going on. You know what? Actually, I was ignoring everybody because I've been paying attention to my Kimberleys and they've been stressing me the fuck out. Like I was worried that I wasn't going to hatch them this time again, and
yeah,
I mean just the fact of success alone. But there's a couple people that are patiently waiting, and they're nice enough to wait for my mess ups.
Yeah.
So I really just want to get these customers satisfied too, and so the pressure is there. I just been now that they've hatched, I can eat a little better. I'm just sleeping better, not looking at the incubator anymore.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the incubator stuff, Alex, what else is in yours that you're expecting soon? You don't have to mention anything that's a secret too, okay? But whatever. What do you got? What do you got coming out soon?
Oh, there it is. There.
So I have some Glaridai as well. Is it working?
Nice.
All right, here we go.
We can hear you.
I got some Glaridai. I got some really nice top enders. I got the other stuff is not really anytime soon, so it's more long term. But there's lace, flavies.
It's dropping a little bit out,
and some and Glaridai for sure.
Nice.
So it got a little iffy there for a second.
Safety
so
first. I got to buckle up.
Yeah. I think Alex said he had
Parentes
and I'm kidding.
Are we back? All right.
Yeah.
5G.
Yeah, we're back.
I think there was that
5G
that
good.
handoff. Yeah. The cellular Wi-Fi handoff. But no, that's good stuff, man.
Now you're
nothing from Nucallis yet, so hopefully, in the next couple of days I did see some courting. So we'll see. Hopefully we got some good stuff coming up. John has a lot of cool stuff happening right now. He just got Primordius.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's got Lace as well now. So a lot of cool stuff.
Lace incubating or the animals?
He's got Lace incubating, and I have one clutch incubating right now, and then I have some Flavies incubating as well.
Yes.
That 200+ day mark, man. I don't know how you guys do it. It's like waiting for
fun.
chameleons. I used to do chameleons, and it's like, man, I don't want to wait this long.
Yeah.
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 There was a point in time when there was Flavies, Lace, and Nucallis in the incubator at once, and that whole incubator was completely full for I don't know, it was almost 300 days because all three species were 200 days. The last Flavie came out insane.
It's going through another little rough spot.
The last one came out what?
Yeah, sorry.
It's got a kind of breaking up a little bit.
Got me?
We heard that part, but it might be a little touch and go.
I live
there. It is.
I live in a kind of rural area, so. Oh, there we go.
No
you got
worries.
it.
Yep. Yeah. So with your Flavies that you had hatch out, what was the time difference between when the first one hatched out and when the second or the last one hatched out even?
27 days.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about like
long.
That sounds about like the experience I had with I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks difference between the first one and the last one, which that was news to me, but everything looked good, but it was a little scary, to be honest. I haven't had that experience before. The dwarf monitors all seem like they hatch out within, a day or two of each other. So with only really that in my background, I was freaking out, but at the same time, I was trying to remain calm. All the eggs looked good and just let them do their thing. But Yeah, a little scary for sure. Do you notice the same thing with like lace monitors or any of the larger monitors? Have you noticed such a spread in the time difference?
Yeah, there's been a spread with Nucallis and Lace as well. I think John has the same experience with Coming Eye. So yeah, there's a spread with the big stuff for sure. Yeah, and I guess it's a weird phenomenon. You know, it's happened where in this case I've had, you know, Flavies hatched like 4 weeks apart, 3 weeks apart. And then there's been times when they all just hatched in unison. So it's weird.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I'll just keep paying attention to it as things keep happening. But I can't help but wonder, you know, what that's about. Is it what in their environment's causing that? Is it temperature differences within the incubator itself, or you know, is it a degree difference on one side of the container to the other, or you know, I don't know. I might not ever know, but
yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
I think it could be any of those things. Maybe size of the egg as well. I've noticed that some of the larger eggs tend to hatch a little bit later, whereas the smaller eggs tend to hatch a little bit quicker. And I mean, you're looking at some of these eggs and you're like, okay, there's not much of a difference here, but why are they hatching like 20 some odd days apart? So that could play a role. You know,
yeah, definitely.
Who knows? So much,
you know,
so much unknown, right? This is just also fairly new with monitor lizards.
Yeah. Just getting them down.
For sure on that. So, I don't know if I should ask. Well, no, I'll go ahead and ask that. What any future projects on the horizon? Any future ones you wish to talk about?
Sure. I mean, we're working on a variant of normal lace where we're trying to bring out. I have this really nice tiger stripe female that has no spots on it whatsoever until you get into its hind legs.
Yes.
So we purchased what we hopefully think is a male, very high blue, very high yellow animal, and we're trying to bring those stripes out from the female and try to get the best of both worlds.
I'm looking forward to that.
This kind of GPL.
So kind of like a more cleaner with bars and bands, right?
Right. Versus the mix of
everything's.
We're trying to go.
Yeah, so
we're trying to, you know, work on getting as well. John had a really cool project happening. It's got the highlighter we just acquired and try and bring those out for 2022. Less white, more yellow. So,
hey, Alex, you have no worries about these secrets getting out because it was like, yeah.
we can hear most of what you're saying, but
it was all this cool stuff he's talking about. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna be doing it. There it is. So, oh yeah, we lost him. Okay, so from what I've seen in person is, man, he's got some seriously cool animals going on. The lace monitor. I mean, the blues that this thing has. It's a normal lace monitor, but it's got like banding on it. And the amount of color on it is kind of insane. And then he has this pink male lace monitor. I mean, it is black. It's a Bell's phase. It's black and pink. And from pictures, you're like, it's not that pink. Saturation's up, lighting is right. But no, I've seen the thing in person, and it is a black and pink monitor. And there's no other way to describe it. It's not like there's any patches of white really on the thing either. It's just black and pink. And so where, you know, lace monitors, I would say, of course, they interest me, but they're not like really at the top of my list, just my own personal preferences. But at the same time, when you start coming out with lace monitors that are blue and yellow and then pink and black, I mean, that's kind of cool to have a lizard that big, that impressive coming in those colors. So I think there's good things happening. Hopefully Alex come back on here pretty quick.
Yeah. I mean, he's I don't know. He's got to drive, worried about the kids in the back. So we may prepare for him to not come back. But
he's messaging me. He says, "Let me get past the orchards," and he'll jump back in. So he's out there, folks. He's
out in no man's land or something. So, the sticks.
Yeah.
And I guess back then when I was younger, but just even 10 years ago, all that area out there from like Livermore to where Sacramento is was almost nothing.
Right.
Slight patches of neighborhoods. They'd just be fields and fields, not even farmlands, just fields and fields.
Right.
And, it'd be mountain areas and valley areas, but I mean, it is a nice area to drive through. Don't get me wrong. There's several orchards when you're coming over Livermore and getting back down to there, and then you go into like Martinez and Fairfield, and that's the area that all these guys are at. They're above there a bit, But it's a nice area to drive through. I remember driving them when I was younger, and then going to the Sacramento show and things like that. And so, I would never drive ever like far distances. That wasn't my thing before. Right now it's no problem, but unless it was a reptile show, we're gonna go,
Right.
And Sacramento show for California was one of the biggest for years. Like when I was a kid, they'd always mention that it was the biggest show. I could never always get out there because I was just young or couldn't afford the trip, and it'd be a day or two trip, and I really just couldn't afford that. But yeah, now I'm actually dying to get up there just because I miss shows. And
come on up. It's actually there's one in San Jose, right at the end of the August.
Yeah, I was just invited to that, but I told them I don't know if I'll really be able to leave and do a 3-day weekend thing with everything that I got going on here.
Yeah.
I hate that I had to turn down networking and money or whatever, but really I'm having no problem selling them online and selling them and shipping them to people and having grasshopper stuff and all that things like that. But the monitors that I'm also hatching out as well are kind of just selling as soon as they're popped out. They're basically people are finishing up their deposits, taking care of animals, and I just got to care for them for a month or two, and then I send them out. So there almost isn't really a necessity for me to get a booth anymore. I do want to just want to have fun now, go to the shows, absolutely. Mingle a little bit. Don't get me wrong. I love shows. I love the whole momentum of things, networking with people, getting into all of it, right? Setting up and talking to kids and everything at the show makes it for me, even if you got to do it for 73 hours. Right. But, it's fun. It's worth it. I just will have to devote all my energy to when I'm actually having a booth at Pomona or in Anaheim, which is local to me. So I can go home and take care of what I need to take care of because it's not very far from where I live. It's maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes max. And, I can basically leave. And the reason why I can't leave, and, some other people might get this, but I basically got a lot of females that are going through the motions. And if I leave for a few days, they can lay eggs without me knowing, or if I know that they're going to get ready to lay eggs, I won't even leave, I'll know not to leave. But, when they're going through just the cycling process, or even me noticing them with like going through vitellogenesis and things like that, I want to be able to be around to catch every time that they're out. Now, the Kimberleys are super active. They're out as soon as you turn on the light. But the mangrove monitors, most of them wait until I'm gone. And then they'll come out, take advantage of their basking time. So if I'm in the room harassing the room, they're kind of just making a bunch of noise and being in there. They're not really going to be out much. That's even if they're hungry or whatever. I might have a female or two that's out like that, but most of them are going to hide. and so my window to see things is very slim, and that's why I got to be here.
No, I totally understand that. Or, man, it's if you don't see certain things, certain stages, it's like,
yeah, you missed it.
Yeah, you missed it. And then, man, that's a tough one. That's definitely a tough one. It's a hard one.
So shows for me are, if I really need to, but I just can't. I can't leave anymore. I used to be able to go to every show that I wanted to, but now that things are in gear on how they are, if it was just single or into like just a few pairs or a couple pairs, but man, when there's so many pairs going on at once, and I'm really trying to see which one is going to hit the lotto for me a little bit, and basically hook up and go the full motions, and it's not as easy as I wish it'd be, where it's like, all right, you're going to breed in 15, 20 days, you're going to lay, and then I'll be able to dig these things up. It's more so of, all right, are you going through this? Should I introduce the male? Dang, I introduced the male too soon. They're fighting. Or I introduced the male too late, and she's charging him, and I think maybe she might be into the process of ovulating, and there's no more real need for breeding anymore.
So on a side, or Alex, he's messaging me, but since he dropped, he's now backstage on this new program we're using. So I'm trying to figure out how to get him back in. Working on it. All right, and I don't know if I have that capability. Let me see here. Don't know. All right, I'm going to work on this while we keep talking about it. All right, so we're trying to get Alex. We're working on getting him back in, and hopefully he's in a place where it'll be a clear signal. We'll get into some good stuff here. But other than that, I grew up with shows, Kai. I can't wait to do a show, but for the same purposes, it's like regular life's going on. Things are selling pretty good, and it's almost like I have to purposely hold on to things just because I don't want to go to a show with an empty table, and then sometimes things aren't hatching out at the right time because the monitors are hatching all throughout the year, but you hold stuff back just to do a show. I don't know. I'm kind of dealing with these same thoughts myself.
I mean, if I had like super surplus, and I have a ton of things, but I mean, I don't. I just hatch stuff out in fair numbers. I don't oversaturate the market at all on purpose, so that way people are coming back, essentially, or more so of the animals that I have myself. They don't lay 30 eggs, So they only lay a few eggs at a time, maybe half a dozen to a dozen, and I can get it multiple times, sure, but even then, it'd still only be like 20 eggs or something like that within this period of time. And so some eggs should hatch out in 100 days. The Kimberleys and most dwarf monitors all right around the 100-day mark, but man, these bigger eggs go roughly 200 days, 180, 170, 210 is the max on the Indicus that I've been sitting on. And so, like you mentioned, pinpointing if these eggs will be ready by September, which is the Anaheim show, hoping that they'll pop out and I'll have them ready. But it gives me just enough time to have availability if they actually hatch out prior to the show, which is like mid-September or something like that. I even forget the date. I haven't even been paying attention to shows because they were obsolete last year. And now that they're back, they're not back in full force, but they're back. And hopefully we can get riding on a couple. I mean, at this point, I think Alex and them are having something in Anaheim, and I believe I'll be joining them then.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's it's gonna be a big one for me. It'd be my biggest show. I'm really just gonna be there absorbing as much as I can. I mean, I've vended for the show at those shows for other places, but never my own.
Yeah.
And then never like monitor strict stuff where you're coming to a booth with with a few guys that really know what we're talking about.
Right.
We're all in the top of our game, whatever it may be, the slight niche that it is. But you go to a show, and sadly, the monitors are horribly misrepresented every time.
Yeah.
You might get a table with a couple captive bred dwarf stuff, and you might see a captive bred water monitor here and there that was passed on and then ended up in someone else's hands, and then now it's just being sold at the show. But you rarely ever go to a show where there's a couple booths that are strictly for like monitor crazed enthusiasts.
Right.
There's tons of wild caught stuff. There's tons of misrepresented stuff, mislabeled stuff. I mean, just crumb,
Right.
To see tables where all these monitors that you're looking at are majority of them are captive bred, and whatever the ones that they do have are in good condition, being sold for quality, not overly marked wild caught stuff.
Part of what I'm thinking about too, if I ever am able to get out and do a show, is the deli cup thing. That works for snakes. They're just kind of going to coil up and sit there anyway. But I think half the draw and allure to monitors, for me anyways, is actually their behavior, seeing them move, seeing them be a lizard, tongue flicking. But how do you bring that into a show setting? How do you use the space in a way where you can show some of that to people, what they're capable of. You're going to have people that
gives you a better understanding of what you're getting, right?
Right.
I mean, it makes you fall in love with it too. Like, not gonna lie, Mike's setups in those drums, right?
Yeah.
Where he has the Kamingai, and he has the Mertens that are basically free swimming with all this other stuff, giving you the true nature of the animal. May be able to trigger a purchase in someone, or even the interest at all, right? They're like, man, I saw these lizards and they weren't just in a cup, they were actually like doing stuff. I thought about the same thing. I've talked to my guy about it, and I had this idea where I was just going to make small cage compartments, but they're going to be kind of decorated,
Mm-hmm.
It just makes it look nice. It doesn't really give people the full understanding, right? I'd have to set up a whole enclosure, maybe have one full enclosure for a baby, have people understand how to take care of it, right? But also explaining to them, like, all right, this is how I have it. This is the science broken down, the psychology and the biology of this animal and what it'll do, and this is how you're going to have it set up. And I might have like one example. That's what I was thinking about if I were to ever do a nice booth, basically like Mangrove Mecca / California Grasshopper or whatever, and it'd be the grasshopper side, and then it'd be the nice monitor side where they're not just in deli cups. I mean, I may start out that way, but I really want to advance and put my monitors into something nice,
Mm-hmm.
have them basically displayed where they got heat, they're not looking all dead, or just things like that. Yeah.
So maybe sweeten the monitor deal on the table. Each monitor comes with like a little cup of hoppers and one of those stickers you got going on. Tape that to the top of the grasshopper bin and send them on their way. And for those people out there that haven't seen those stickers yet, they're actually, Kai sent me a couple. They're pretty nice. They're on my freezer now in the warehouse. So.
Nice, man. Yeah, I actually really like the stickers too. I guess I'd love to give a shout out to the gentlemen that made this for me. Okay, so it all started with, obviously, a gentleman named Dave Urbanowicz. Some people may know him for breeding white throats. He does quite a few things in the hobby, but really great guy. And he is also another Indicus magnet type of guy where he loves them. He enjoys them for what they are, even if most people don't. And so he drew the whole head for me, scalation and the actual the bands between the eyes, and basically made the jaw and head look perfect. And so I really didn't want to lose that. And so the gentleman next that went through and did the graphic part for me, basically turned the drawing into a little slight cartoon, added the lettering for me and the coloration that basically made everything stand out and pop out. And it really, really fit perfectly well within this little circle sticker. Yeah. And for me, it's really, I don't know, it's putting stone in my business or setting a stone or a little mile marker for where we've come. And now, it's the sticker. Next, it'll be a shirt or a hat, or I'm, working on a couple other things. I'm really trying to put all my money into the right places, but I believe branding and marketing is also important, especially when you get down the line and people, the way the hobby is, right, and how we can easily get things done now. I mean, most people just can have things done at home, right? Or order it online real quick, pop in your suggestions, and bam, it's there for you. You pay $7 for a hat to be made, and you buy like 50 hats or something like that, and gets your stuff out there. It's basically marketing, and you already got free platforms like Instagram and Facebook, so might as well take that money that you would have spent at advertising anywhere else and put it into the $100 that you're going to spend on stickers or post-its or whatever, but man, I don't charge for the stickers. I basically just give them away as hey, here, thanks for purchasing, here's something that represents my business a little bit. Before, it's just little jelly cups and paper towels, so you didn't really know who the hell is sending you stuff,
Right.
Now it's putting a thing. So you yourself, man, with that with your logo, all it needs to be is put in a little bit of editing and have somebody work it out for you. But
I'm still messing. I've thought of making something new, so I'm kind of I'm figuring out the process. But Alex is sending me messages right now. So unfortunately, with the way this is set up, I don't have access to get him back in. So I don't know if he's going to be able to. I'm working on it, but we're just going to have to proceed. If he's able to get back in, then great. But back to the logo thing, I'm thinking it was basically a Brettles python on the logo. Yeah. So I still have a ton of Brettles pythons, and I love those snakes. But I'm also doing a ton of monitors now. So I was talking about this with my wife. I'm like, well, maybe something needs to change. Maybe something needs to kind of
double incorporation, right? Snakes,
right, to be more representative of kind of what's going on with everything. So
I mean,
I'm thinking, I'll get a new design, and then I'll worry about maybe making some, make myself a cup anyways.
yeah. At least for what it is. I mean, some of those other stuff I think people charge for. The stickers are like they're stickers. So
right.
They're just here you go. They're gifts, and I really appreciate you for your thing. And it also when they stick it up places and people ask them about it, they put it on their canteen or their skateboard or the refrigerator, or someone's gonna run by it or something like that and ask about it or something, and right. that's where your promotion and stuff like that kind of move along by word of mouth, even if it's just a little sticker,
right.
For the new guys coming up, it's like we're just entering this. We're mostly just hobbyists, but we know that it's also a business. It's something you want to take professionally. Business is no longer done how it used to be, where you come into a place and everything was done in the back. It'd be brought out to you, and you got the end product.
Yeah.
Now businesses, people are going to look into your business. They're going to want to see some transparency. They want to know from the start to your waste how you're getting rid of stuff, how you are as a whole. They're not just coming from the sticker to having just empty deli cups before, right? Now it's like a type of brand, and you're branding yourself. You're making yourself more professional. People want to look at they want to easily be able to differentiate you from the rest, and that's where your logos and your things like that will come in. If you don't have any, essentially people don't know what they are unless you tell them. Having an Instagram page and having a Facebook, shoot, I actually don't want to make all those other things because I already have so many pages that I'm taking care of already, along with YouTube and Instagram and this and that. I don't need separate business pages, so I have them lumped on to my Instagram and my Facebook. And so, but eventually they will. We already made a California Grasshopper page because people want to see more than, or they only want to see the business part. They don't care about my postings, and they don't care about my rantings or whatever else. It's just getting that to that transparency again, where they're seeing, all right, this company is regularly posting. They've got reviews. Reviews is one thing, but man, they're going to want to see like how it works for these people and all that stuff like that. And so, it's great to put yourself out there, but you will also have to have all that responsibility too. It can't be taking your anger out on customers, and stuff, or just act professional, because at the end of the day, that's what's expected of you as a business person, or I think some reptile people they can be quite introvert, and that's how we get into this anyways, because the whole rest of the world was a obliteration of itself. So you had to find something that was great and to get into, and it gives you a passion, it gives you excitement, all that stuff, right? And so I know some people have a hard time of getting to the point of, all right, I have to take this from just my little hobby to now a business,
right?
And you actually have to get out there. You have to put yourself out there, and you have to deal with all the customers, all the answers, all the questions, all the emotions that you'll go through, even if you are disrespected by somebody that is just asking a question or something like that. You don't want to let that basically take over your business.
Yeah, I've ran into some awesome guys, some awesome breeders that work with some really unique animals.
Yeah.
And unless you had an opportunity to actually physically run into them in person, you would never know they were out there, never know they exist, because they either they don't know how, or they just don't want to deal with that side of things. So there's quite a few of those people actually out there, just because of what you said. There's some introverts, and they like their reptiles. They don't want to deal with people, and it's some of them, honestly, they even they have the animals figured out, but they control their production to a certain degree. They wholesale out to people because they want to deal with as little people as they can. So, hey, we might be in luck here. So,
Alex is a ghost. I hope you guys know. He was here. He's still here, kind of.
Yeah, we should be getting him back. Oh, okay. You guys are getting the inner workings of this. So, going forward with this, we're going to have a couple different options available because we've run into some issues as far as getting people on and different setups and platforms and whatnot. So we're going to try to figure this out on our side. Thank you guys for being patient with us and working through us with some of this stuff. But
some technology just aren't compatible with others. You guys should know. There's Apple and Android stuff that basically just need some more fine tuning. Some people are they're only limited to Apple stuff because they have only Apple products. So we'll have to find just a platform that runs that stuff without an issue.
All right, and he's backstage. Let me try to get this going. Some dead air here. We're gonna need some editing. But yeah, okay. So I'll let that work out. Hopefully, we'll see him here in just a second, and go from there. Man, so when he does pop back on, if he does pop back on, he's been sending me these kind of pictures of. I mean, John's got the Spencers already, and Alex been sending me some pictures of these Spencers monitors, and I got to thank for them. I honestly do. I know they're in there, and there's a lot of different species I can look at. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Maybe one day. Oh yeah, that looks fun. And there's there he is, Alex. Welcome back, buddy.
Hey,
I think. Oh, there we go.
I was getting my makeup done backstage. So.
Yeah, we're talking about the Spencer eye that you got.
I didn't say anything. I said you're sending me pictures of these Spencer eye. Man, it's they are so tempting. But they're not easy to find. There's very few out there, and so they reflect that price tag too. So it's a commitment. But what an awesome species to look at. For the people that haven't, just Google them. Go look up a Spencer's monitor, and they're pretty unique looking animals. So
they're like a desert monitor type, shrub desert type, right?
Yep.
Man, their colors are like cream white and that grayish look. That's a nice color. Yeah, and their faces are really cute. I don't know. I've never really seen a mean one. I've never even seen one, but I've never really witnessed any of them be aggressive. The ones that I have seen videos of. Now, those things are known to be like the ones that I've seen before are known to be really fat.
They're big,
really chunky.
Yeah. Go ahead, chime in, Alex. Tell us about it.
They can be. Yeah, if they're definitely susceptible to overfeeding, kind of like savanna monitors. Some of the areas that they come from actually freeze over in Australia, so they have a longer than normal brumation period. You can tell, their tails are very short and stout, and you could tell that they're used for fat storage during those really brutal times where there's just absolutely nothing to eat. So they just, depend on those reserves. And if you have them and you're not keeping them in adequate temperatures and things like that, you can definitely, overfeed them to the point where they become so obese that, they're just going to not do anything for you. And a couple of people have had some challenges with Spencer, and I think it boils down to that, not having them set up properly.
Yeah. Is that, so for an approach for Spencer eye, is that something you would do? Is just almost watch the tail base and, kind of base. I mean, you talked about a longer, brumation period, but see, I just can't help but think if they were in my care and you're saying this about like this fat storage in the tail base, to kind of reference that. If the tail base is good, then you might get put on a involuntary diet for a little bit if you're getting too fat, try to burn off some of that fat and then keep the temps up in that part of the year, and then almost prep them for the cold part of the year too,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's a great approach to it. I mean, it's definitely a species that there's not much known out there. I mean, even in Australia, it's not regularly kept like lace monitors or flavies or anything like that. So it's, it's touch and go with them. And then a lot of the people that have had, unfortunate circumstances with their Spencer eye, I think, if they bring them to the vet and stuff like that, a lot of them have identified extra fat storage as a possible issue as to why they perished or why they're not doing well, or why there was no reproduction from those specific animals. So definitely keeping an eye on the diet, keeping an eye on the tail base, making sure that there's the side of the animal, the saddles aren't like over draping to the point where they're dragging their tummies along the substrate. That's huge. That's when you have an obese animal and you need to definitely Jenny Craig them. So definitely things to keep an eye on. And once that moment comes where it starts getting chilly around here, just kind of take away the opportunity to eat every day so that they're not having to go through that process of getting so much food that they don't know what to do with it.
So you say Jenny Craig in them now. What are you referring to? If you want to get into that a little bit, because I want to stay on Spencer, because they're.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely not going to feed them every day for sure. I mean, young animals for sure. Obviously, the point of existence for a lot of these animals is to grow as quickly as possible and breed. And so, once these animals get full grown or they're reaching adult size, you have to cut back on the amount of food, especially because it's an animal that has, from what I could tell, has a slower metabolic rate than, let's say, a Lacemon or a Flavy or something like that. That's more high strung and is more of an active forager. Yeah, like a white throat.
Yeah,
like a Savannah or things like that.
With my Indicus, so I used to do I used to have Argus and Flavy cross, right, and then I also had water monitors growing up. My Indicus eat way much less than what a Salvatore can pound down. Even babies, right? They just pick off much more. They'd rather just nibble, grab a little bit to eat, and then take off. They're not really there to gorge. And then I'll even notice if I do feed them a ton, like when I'm trying to get females to that point, right? I now skip a day in between, so that way they have some time to digest, and rather than just pounding and pounding and pounding. And it's been more beneficial on my animals that they don't have that miserable look when they're so bloated, and so with this, I mean, I'm basically taking my Indicus and all my monitors through winter, setting a kind of like a brumation tone where I'm using the Normus Hemisphere drop and basically following that. Remember how I asked you about that before, where what should I do for my monitors, even if they are from the Southern Hemisphere? I couldn't make in the Southern Hemisphere, our summertime would be their change, right? And so I really couldn't do that here. I think me and Alan talked about this in another episode as well, where in the summertime here is dang too hot, so I couldn't get it down. So what I did is I waited for fall to come, take advantage of fall, and start tapering down and decreasing my heat. The heat was dissipating already because it's no longer as hot, so that'll normally go down on its own. But the food intake also went down too, from eating maybe a little bit every day or every other day to only eating twice a week. And then once I got into like full winter time, like December, January, February, and even into March, the animals ate maybe once a week, every 10 days, something like that. And it just helped out so much better than keeping them hot, having them run through 12 months of the year expecting to breed them or something like that, And so I gave my animals a great reset in their whole cycle and recharging and stuff. And talking about the Spencer, I think that's what they'd be needing, something like that, where you're acknowledging that where they're from, even if it's the desert, it does get really cold. Deserts, even the most stereotypical thing is that they're hot and dry all the time, which is untrue. There's dew and cold parts, and desert snow sometimes, depending on the areas too.
No, that's a good point. There is desert snow, pretty much in every desert, right? So I mean, and this is no different. Some of these animals come from plateaus where it does freeze over. So, you think of Australia and you don't think, hey, there's snow in Australia, but there actually is. and these animals come from that area. So you just got to be aware of that and make sure that you put that into your planning. You know, if you do decide to jump into an investment such as this, make sure that your typical, what you think you know about monitor lizards does not apply to the species. Put it that way.
Right.
Fun.
It's kind of like having Bolini, right? It's kind of like having
Yeah.
Bolin's pythons, where they're higher elevation animals, cooler temperature animals. It's kind of like the same thing, like you make adjustments to the way that
can't do what you do to carpets as you do to the Bolini, right? And that's for years, that's what they thought. And so you would just plug in the same thing, arrogant as we can be, but now we have to think. Now we have to think differently. It's a bit for the animals that, sure, they're all monitors. We're talking about monitors here, and on a somewhat of a spectrum, a lot of them are the same. Sure, you're keeping good surface temperatures and things like that, but when it comes down to those little details, man, there's some stuff that makes them very different from each other. From Africa species to the Asian and that Micronesia area are all a bit different, and then into Australia, it's just a whole another ball game. And so it's no longer where I consider, dang, all monitors are the same, and we're just going to use the same techniques. That's kind of how I've been able to get the indicus going, is because of trying not to just think like an Australian keeper would think. And so I've had to dig the brains of actual Indonesian people, or like Danny Gorman himself, where he's over there, just asking him for information on what he's surface temperaturing outside and things like that, and applying that. What I learned is, in Indonesia, their coldest night is our summertime, and it's basically just not really extremely cold. It's just the clouds aren't there, so there is no rainy season, and so the heat just gets to expel and escape rather than being trapped underneath the clouds, where in normal rainy season would trap all that heat in and create more. And so that's where I learned, all right, I have to actually give them something more than what people were considering before, where this part is near the equator, and I would never think it'd be going below 75, which is totally untrue. And now I know that most people are going to suspect that this area around the world on the equator is always going to be hot and warm and be consistent. But man, there's so much more microclimate that is involved. And that's what you have to really take into consideration. Because if I were to just keep my animals hot and blaring, always at 80 degrees, never really thinking about where they'd get to in a colder area, or what just changes throughout the year, and assume that it's always just going to stay the same, always just going to be hot and humid, that there is no change for them. They don't get an actual a sense of, all right, what is the weather doing to me now? What is my body doing? And then then you're taking advantage of that if their bodies are, all right, it's now egg production time, things like that. That all fall into play, where the weather is, for me, working in my benefit, giving me more successful clutches, healthier animals, and all that stuff.
For me, with Alex, I want you to figure out the problems before I get Spencer eye. So, go ahead, and I'll just ride your coattails on that trip, and you go ahead, put in the work, and just let me know what you do. We'll,
Well, I mean, luckily for us, we live in a climate that's very similar to what they're probably used to.
Yeah.
We get extreme heat, and then we don't get quite as cold. Sometimes we'll freeze over. We'll have some dew and some frost on the floor, but I think it's advantageous to them to have this drier climate and on the West Coast than it would be to have them outdoors in Florida. Like I would never, I would never think I can't keep a certain species of monitor lizard outside if I was living in Florida. But I think, maybe that's one of the few species, Griseus being another, that I probably wouldn't have very good success with outside in high humidity areas such as Florida.
Yeah, I kind of think along the lines of with the Spencers. like Brettles pythons and diamond pythons, you got to cool them down. To be more successful with them, definitely you got to cool them down, and they're capable of operating and using cooler temperatures than some of the other species in the Morelia family. So maybe, like you're saying, something along that same line with Spencer's, and you bring up our climate. Does that mean you're gonna keep them outside?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Going from your man, I don't know how it is in wintertime. I mean, I just know that it'll probably get chilly, right? 30s and 40s, but I think going from your summer to fall would be something different. I just don't know how that'll work.
Oh yeah, I mean, we have 4 seasons here. In Northern California, and in Florida there was just 2. It was just either really, really hot or just hot. And then there was a couple of cold and there was a couple of cold days that came in, from up north, but that's pretty much it. Where, you do have a drier period versus a wetter period, and that's, I think, a little bit more favorable to like the Indonesian stuff, and if you're into like tegus and stuff, the South American stuff. And that's why a lot of people in Florida have had such great success with tegus and iguanas, because it's pretty much a mirror image of what's happening in South America. It's just, except just in the northern hemisphere. So huge success for those people that are working with those species in South Florida.
Yeah. Man, that kills me to admit, but it's true. It seems like you got to go through a lot more work to set something up, like like what Kai's doing. You got to put a lot more into the thinking process behind keeping some of these Indonesian species rather than a lot of the Australian dwarfs and whatnot. It seems like they take to it pretty well. I can honestly say I've been a little spoiled with those guys, as I'm sure. Well, Alex, have you noticed that yourself? Has there been a big difference between breeding dwarf monitors in Florida as opposed to out here in California? Or is it just they're just prolific across the board?
I think in Florida I had a period where I didn't get as much production, like in the span of between September and going into December, I didn't get anything from dwarf monitors. And here in California, I've actually gotten some clutches in December, January, and stuff like that. So, I'm not sure if it's just because here there's a difference in terms of like humidity levels, or just the dry spell that you go through on the opposite end of the spectrum. Whereas in Florida, it's super humid in the summer. So I think that's why, a lot of the activity ceases, because it's just hot and humid all the time. And then here in the wintertime, we get a little bit more humidity because of the fact that it rains here in the wintertime, and it's just dry as hell, in the summer.
It's so
I think
that's that change that I was kind of mentioning, where it's we don't even pay attention to it. It's just happening on its own outside, but it benefits our animals in a way. And Alan and I joke about this. We call it the neglecting period, but it's kind of what it is. You're not making it really humid in there all the time, and you're not even paying attention to that stuff all the time. It's just you're just going to feed a little bit, and that's it, And then they kind of do their own thing. That's just I don't know. It's weird. It's weird because it works. And
scheduled neglect.
I think that's what makes monitor lizards so unique and so special, is the fact that, they're
Did it freeze right? You're going to make this great speech out. There you are. Okay.
Yeah, it froze. I was going to say, these things are so unique in the fact that you can go, they can take a little bit of abuse. They're used to it, from where they come from. They go through periods of famine, and even the stuff that lives in the middle of the equator, they go through their spells of abuse, so they can take abuse a lot better than a lot of other stuff.
And that's it. Just Yeah, well, I hope people don't take it the wrong way. We're not really trying to. It's just it all interfolds with giving them this break period where we're talking about,
Mhm.
and they basically don't get to eat a lot. They're slimmed down a whole ton, and what happens is when their body is tapered down like that, and they go back up, it's the trigger of all the now they getting fat reserves back and more protein and basically running through being able to gain sustenance to be able to produce, and that the lapse that they went through prior, whether it be something as simple as a few weeks to a few months that I do like this last winter. I sent my indicas and my Kimberleys through, I say, 3 to 4 months of not really doing a whole lot. Now, man, have you been doing the brumation? I know you've probably done brumation stuff with maybe some North American animals. Have you been doing them with much of your monitors other than giving them a little bit break? Have you like gone down with the weather?
Um, with I do with the lace. So what I do is I lower their temperature. So I just take the wattage down on their cages, um, the flavies as well. The dwarf stuff stays as is, but they naturally do it where I just cut some food down, and I'm not feeding as much, and that usually triggers them to not be as active and not try to go through reproductive cycles. And that's the thing. You don't, like you said earlier, trigger is the key word. You want to trigger them to go into their cycles. You don't want to have them consistently going through cycles throughout the year, because you're going to end up, obviously putting a huge impact on the shelf life of your animal if you're having them breed, 6-7 clutches a year. That's not something that's natural to them, and I that's more abuse to me than um cutting back on resources just so that they could recharge their batteries, and then you could trigger them again later on in the year.
So more of a long-term approach, basically, for the overall monitor or the animal, and you're looking long-term rather, because I mean it's well known you can pump these things, you can pump out some babies just keeping these things fed and hot all the time. But I think you've probably noticed it just in your years of doing it, your experience. You can also burn some animals out. So it's exciting. I think it's exciting for new keepers and new breeders to get on the scoreboard, myself included. And you're like, wow, this is amazing. These things are just pumping out animals. But then you might be 2 years into it, and then you have an animal that's just not producing, not doing the same thing, almost has a certain attitude and behavior to it. So you've obviously been doing it a while. Is that part of something you learned, or did you start with that approach, or is that just something that's developed over time?
No, definitely learned. At the beginning stages in the mid to late 90s, it was all about heating and feeding them, and you burn out your animals that way, I think. And it wasn't until I started talking to more European keepers where they kind of have like a more methodical approach to the animals versus the breeding aspect of it, and the longevity of the animals and being able to enjoy the animals for a longer period of time, and having them go through their natural processes, right, of going through hibernation or brumation, and going through these great moments of reproduction and things like that on a more consistent basis year in and year out. But you can't get that doing 6-7 clutches a year. You won't get that same like that same methodology of having your animals live for what they're supposed to be, and what they're meant to live. You're just, like I said earlier, you're just cutting down on the shelf life of your animal if you're in it to just get all these eggs and all these clutches. You're going to look back and think, what did I do wrong, when you have a dead female, and then maybe you didn't hold back as much as you wanted to, and then you're starting over again. Because it's happened, for sure. It's happened to me, and I'm sure a lot of people out there have gone through that heartache and that frustration of losing an animal and not setting yourself up for the future. And that's probably a big reason why you kind of see, like, you kind of like a horse with blinders on, where you just see like, oh man, all this production is great, and the animals are doing a great job of making these babies for us, and we're getting to sell them and things like that, and then you kind of lose the aspect of it, why you got into it in the first place, which is to enjoy the animals. And I think I learned that more speaking to a lot of the European guys, because that's more on the forefront. Breeding is always the end game for all of us, right? It's why we get these animals and why we put pairs together and things like that. But also to kind of offset, the happiness that you get out of breeding your animals, you also get to enjoy a lot of these naturalistic behaviors that they showcase for you inside of a box.
Yeah. Yeah, it's what I've been trying to gather with my Indicus, because I mean, I've killed some. Sadly, just trying to produce myself, even after successfully getting a clutch from a female, a few months later, trying it again, and really, I felt like what I should have did was just not feed her much after that clutch, because then what I did is I tried to kind of trigger another one. And what that did is she just, instead of having this break in between that clutch, she just pounded on more and more food. And I thought, all right, this is it. She's basically going to be doing this again. And really, it wasn't at all. It wasn't a thing where, all right, she's going to be going through a whole another process. It was just her gaining weight. And bam, I lost her later that year. And it really sucked, because I thought I was doing the right thing, but really I should have just tapered her back, let her, just gain enough weight not to develop follicles. That's the thing, is if I can, that's what I'm currently dealing with now. So as Alex mentioned, where I have Kimberly's, and I've talked with both Alan and Alex, I'm trying to get my girls to stop. They basically are just shooting out eggs all the time, where a female has already given me, like, I'd say 5-6 clutches where I didn't even want all of them. She just kept on dropping eggs, even when I had no male with her. So then I went down and all right, what am I going to have to do? I just basically cut her diet, took out all the anything that was egg or chick or quail, and started just going with just bugs. And even the grasshoppers, I was doing less of that. And so now it's like, and I have to really taper her back. And I even to this point right now, I think she's just ready to go again. And I actually don't know what to do other than to not breed her, try to take down the lambs just a little bit, and go from there. Maybe next year, or going into next year, winter time, I'll just cool her down and then wake her back up.
What are you doing, Alex? What are you to stop a female? So sometimes these animals are so prolific, they just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is it's paying attention to, from the day that I journal, right? The day that is that I dig up eggs. So it's usually between 24 and 48 hours prior to that. And those next 14 days are probably the most important days as to whether or not you get your female to cycle again or not. So if you can find a way to maybe feed less during those 14 days, there's a good chance that you won't trigger, another reproductive event. I'm not saying it's, 100% foolproof, but I'm saying it's a good chance, because you think, okay, she laid, she looks like a raisin, I got to power feed the shit out of her in order for her to get back going again. But instead, you're being counterproductive, right? Because you're just starting another trigger again. So it's just can you gauge it well enough where you're feeding her enough to get her back on her feet and get those nutrients back into her body, after laying and expelling so much of those nutrients and all that stuff into those eggs and that, egg laying event, but not to the point where you're starting another trigger.
Right. Now that's an interesting thing to mention. And for people that haven't noticed it, it's a concept that I'm still very new to. It's just kind of come up. So you're actually confirming some things for me, and in what I'm seeing with that. So, feet, I would take that same approach. It's just, I got to get that weight back on that female. I got to make sure those folds start to fill out, and then you're right back into square one. Yeah.
Yeah. Like what I'm trying to look for is the meat in her tail base gets back to what it kind of was, but her belly isn't doing all those bloating things, like where she's all of a sudden looking plump, because a female Kimberly can go from flat to like a little balloon and very short. And I have a girl right now that was going through all the relaxation part of after laying, right? So just being kept by herself, fed kind of light. She's bloated again just today, the last couple of days. And so I'm just like, all right, I'm going to pull this male. I really don't want any of this happening right now, but I'll just make sure that you're taken care of. So I revamped her nest box, added more sandy soil to the other areas, gave her more options, and just gonna let her do her thing. I really don't even know if she's grabbing to leave the male in there or anything like that. It's just, it's a
so
mess.
that would lead to the next question, maybe, Alex. You have a female and you're trying to ride that line where you're getting nutrients back into her, but not push her into another cycle. Let's say she then goes into another cycle. You're already there. Do you keep feeding? Do you feed her through that for that nutrients? Because she's already going to do it for the most part. Or are you going to pull back still and try to still interrupt it? Maybe cause her to reabsorb, or you're looking at maybe a bad clutch that might shut her off after that. I mean, these are some of the issues that might happen. What do you look for? What do you do?
If you're at a point of no return, leave the male in or put a male in. It's better for her to lay fertile eggs than infertile egg, because laying infertile eggs is for a female twice as labor intensive as it would be laying fertile eggs. Whenever I've received infertile eggs, I've always just seen females just labor a little bit more, right, than when they're laying fertile eggs. It's almost as if it's kind of unnatural for them to be laying infertile eggs, and it takes a lot more of a toll on their body than laying fertile eggs. So I would say, if you're at the point of no return, you're like, crap, maybe I didn't gauge this correctly, throw the male in, because you're still within that window, 14 to 17 days. You throw a male in there once you see her going through the motions, and you might as well get fertile eggs out of it and see if you can gauge it better the next go around, for sure.
So this is basically at this point, it's like a practiced art for you, where it's been hands-on experience watching your animals to learn these different signs that they're giving you and what to do with each animal. What would you say like your success rate is now with reading all these signs and getting it right?
It's still piss poor.
It's a lot of miscalculations sometimes. It's like, hey, I thought you guys were doing the business. What happened?
A lot of times where I've dug up nest boxes to find them empty, and I'm like, wow.
I know. And I've had that happen.
I don't think with monitor lizards you're gonna get like this turnkey thing.
Yeah.
Where some other species of reptiles have become so turnkey for people that it's just like
clockwork.
Right. Just super synchronous, right? It's never going to be that way.
Yeah.
It's never going to be that way. Monitor lizard, they throw wrenches at you and the whole kitchen sink, and I think that's why I love them so much. Because it's just it's always a challenge, right? You're always getting challenged. You're always having to think outside the box with them, and they're not meant to be synchronous, where like you do certain things with certain snakes and you're automatically guaranteed success for the most part, right? You're never going to get that with these things.
Yeah, you just got to pay more attention.
Dragons, or some you get something with them right away if you run like this this special way of doing things. It's like a guideline, you know, like it's almost like reading a syllabus for a class, and if you follow these steps, this is how you're going to get an A. It's certainly not that way with monitor lizards.
Yeah, I get that a lot, and I'm not trying to ripe on anybody that's coming to me for questions. You know, it's just not so black and white as like breeding snakes is or some other animals. It's so much more. I'll have to dissect everything that's on your end to even understand how to even help you. You know, I'll have to understand that first, not just telling me what you have and things like that. You know, shoot, you might be able to ask me questions, and then you can go ahead and plug in and see if that'll work for you, and actually definitely try it. Don't just take my word for it. You know, test it out. But you know, it's not so from here to Alabama or here to Florida, like we've talked about, there's just so much more that you would have to consider than just setting up a cage the right way. It's the temperatures outside and how that weather is affecting everything, and it can play a role if you capitalize it or not. And for us, it's taking advantage of the weather change and the winter time and the drought or whatever. It's beneficial, and we can add water to it, you know. But like Alex was mentioning, where a place that's so saturated, it's hard to remove the water or make an area dry when you'd have to actually control it within doors, you know. So
there's got to be some scientific or some psychological term for what we're describing here. I have a feeling it borders on the unhealthy that we're in this toxic relationship with animals that you know, we're always trying to fix the issues. We're trying to figure it out, take it on, and but I hear you on that. You know, it's exciting to me as well. You want that challenge a little bit, and you know, we were just talking about Spencer's. They're kind of still a new frontier, and oh man,
I mean, even lace monitors weren't that bred heavily until just the last few years.
Yeah.
You know, before it was still just a couple guys that did it, and that was it. Now it's quite a few, and the market's full of them, and man, it's, I don't know, there's so many lace monitors nowadays, so many. I've seen like 3 different types too. How many are there, Alex? There's a few that are, there's that ugly one. I like that one. I like the dark one, the one with the black face. I actually like that.
Oh
one.
Yeah, the dark ones are nice. There's the more brighter normals, and then there's, you know, your bells, right? Everyone goes in Google Gaga for the bells. I'm a sucker for the normal. I really like
bells.
I don't think that term is relative to like genetics or anything like that. I think it relates more to like a cleaner bell pattern where there's no saturation of black into the yellow and vice versa. I haven't been able to hatch a normal lace from my bells to normal females.
Okay.
That's a little bit interesting. And I think, you know, if a couple more clutches come out this way, I think it's safe to say that the male bells that I have could be homozygous. But I mean, as far as that's concerned, you know, it's kind of a moot point to kind of speculate right now, with it being, you know, there's a lot of people producing, you know, lace right now, so to speak, by relative terms to what was being produced before. But, you know, when you're diving into the genetics of the bells and, you know, all these other things, I still think that's relatively new and fresh, and still needs a lot more exploring to happen before people can start putting market names on these animals.
Yeah. That's a whole world of interesting stuff with that, because I know both exist out in the wild, and you can actually have both types of animals, if I'm not mistaken, in the same areas, right?
Yeah, so right outside Sydney, you have both, you know, the bells phase lace and regular, actually darker form animals. I have both. I have the dark face. Actually, I have all three now. I have the blues with the brighter colors, the bells, and the darker formed animals. And one of the darker formed animals is actually that striped female that I want to kind of breed back to a high colored male so that we could bring those stripes out with more color.
Mm-hmm. Man, those are exciting projects. While you were in away, dropped the service for whatever reason. I kind of talked about your big pink male and how, first off, real that thing is. Second, it's I don't even know how to explain it. I was expecting to see kind of a dirty monitor in certain kind of lighting that looked pink, and to see it in person and see that this thing actually is pink and black. What are your thoughts on that and possibly reproducing that?
Yeah, it's very much in the works. I held back a couple of animals that I definitely want to put back on him, and see what can happen with that pink coloration from him. He wasn't always that pink. He started out when we first got him in from Europe. He was not quite that pink, so it really developed over the course of the last couple of years as he's matured into a gigantic animal. That just he's pink from head to toe. It's incredible. So hopefully, if we can get a like female. She doesn't have to be just as pink as him, and I don't anticipate any of the ones that we held back to be just as pink as him because they share the female's qualities, and they're both normal animals. But to be able to breed it back to him is exciting. And just wanting to speculate with the possibilities that are out there with that animal. Hopefully we can create some really high pink animals in the future.
Did you see any evidence or any pictures of pink animals out in the wild?
I haven't. Actually, most of the animals that I've seen in the wild have a lot of cross saturation between the black and the yellow, or the black and the it's almost like a vanilla colored on some of these animals.
Mm-hmm.
But I have not seen pink in wild photographs of wild bells out there, and I also have not seen animals with that symmetry in between the colors, where it's all black in the black areas and it's all yellow in the yellow or white in the white areas. Not very many of those out there.
Yeah.
It's because we've been able to keep them and clean them up a little bit, right? Breed animals that were possibly more cleaner than
that's
in the wild.
It'd
be just one in a million, but in captivity we have them. So that's why we clean them up. I get, man. All right, I wanted to see if you were to help me understand this again. I asked you a little bit before, but since we're still on the genetics thing, so we're about to get into this conversation about crosses and hybrids, and making 100% animals out of animals that I used to make 50% animals. So I have Kai Islands, right? And I've already bred the male to an Indicus. Now, basically, the Indicus is carrying the Kai Island for me that I want to breed back to my peers. So I currently have a 50% that I can breed to a 100%. That'll give me 75%, right? Babies.
Yeah, so 50% to 100% will get you 75. And then you got to breed the 75 back to another 100% to get your 100% animal.
All right. Now, I guess, maybe you don't know this, but what happens with the carrier, the Indicus part? Like, what I'm hoping for is it has all the characteristics of Kai Island, where it has the pink tongue and all that stuff, right? The throw, like, for the most part, everything is like a Kai Island except for the tongue. The tongue is, I can tell the female. It may be the male's patterning on the outside, but it's the female inside. Like her body shape, her jaw shape, the tongue, the scalation is also like mom's and not like. So dad has elephant skin, like smooth, almost human like, right? But the female has plated skin where every scale has a little scale on it that comes out and protrudes out. So it's almost like rough in a sense and not smooth. So what happens to that last part? Even if I were to make 100%, what would happen to all that?
Well, you're essentially bringing those aspects out, right? I mean,
yeah.
If you want, I mean, let's just say that you wanted to keep the tongue color.
I don't. I wanted to be okay. I wanted to be Kai Island as much as possible, so I wanted to be pink, and I'm hoping the 7.
Yeah, what happened? So the 75% animal, if you want to retain as much Kai Island as possible, you'd have to breed that 75% animal back to 100% in order to get as much of that genetic makeup of the Kai Island animal into your new progeny, your new clutch.
Yeah. So Alan, this has been on my mind for a while. It's basically my project within a project within a project again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, at first it was just the mangrove monitors, and then it was the parthenogenic stuff. Now that project's kind of done. I still have to hatch out more clutches, but that project is basically finished. Now it's the mixed mutts, and then breeding back to 100%, and then breeding those back to 100% again. So, yeah, this will be a few years, but
you're gonna get all kinds of. We're just talking lizards. The snake world is kind of a whole different aspect of this, and all the terms.
And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to change the monitor game a little bit, introduce a smaller high yellow monitor that people can keep. Most people love the water monitor factor, love the Nile factor, but damn, they just get so big. The 3-foot lizard is where it's at.
I agree, actually. Outside of Spencer's, I agree.
The 2 to 3 foot. I mean, shoot, if I love lace monitors, the look and they're supposed to be pretty voracious too, and I just can't keep them. I don't think I'd be able to fully support one the way I want to, and that's why I basically don't have them.
Yeah, Alex, actually, you were talking about, you got to hold back some animals for this lace project. But, I mean, we're talking lace monitors. That's a lot of animal. So how do you make this stuff work? And do you need, my help? I could help you store some of these animals.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's basically playing cage Jenga, right? You got to
just
stuff to make room for other stuff, and you put cages on another cage and take advantage of your vaulted ceilings as much as possible.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
But Alan, yes, I will take that into consideration if I need to move animals from one place to the other because I'm running out of space.
It's just, if you need to, I could help you with that. So out of the kindness of my heart alone.
Oh, I know. It's a huge sacrifice. Thank you, sir.
Man.
It
might be. How much do they eat? Hold on. Maybe I'm...
they eat drumsticks every day.
Yeah, they eat a lot of drumsticks, a lot of hard-boiled egg, crumbled up, turkey with giz.
Oh, it froze for a second. There's a lot of wild squirrels and chickens that live around where I'm at. So
you'll have to cage them, man.
I might have to tap into that a bit. So.
Oh, yeah, you guys are still going through Carl, right? He's I don't know. I mean, I sent a lot of people to him, but you guys are all ordering from him, right? Just to make sure you guys are getting good stuff.
I am. I just met Carl the other day, actually. He came and dropped off some stuff in person. So it's the first time I met him in person.
He's strange, but I respect him a lot, though.
Yeah, he's got cool stuff. Who isn't in this when you got a guy that's going to come deliver to you in person a bunch of frozen birds and mice, you're probably a little straight. It looks like we lost Alex again, but we're right around that 2-hour mark anyways. So,
but yeah, Carl out there, for anybody in California, this is your plug, man. We really appreciate you as supporting West Coast monitor keepers, with quality products that basically is hard to get. So a little background. Carl is a falconer. He is not a monitor keeper at all. But falcons need to eat very clean prey items, very good stuff, quality. They just can't have a ton of fat, and they have to have lean, good stuff. So it's got to be fresh and things like that. And honestly, even though monitors have crazy digestive systems and can eat a rotting mouse, I don't want to have that and store that. Or I'm trying to give them things that are a little bit more cleaner, where I know the quality where it came from.
Yeah,
it hasn't been frozen for tons and tons of time, and even then, if things were a hiccup, he'd take care of you. So he's very, very good on timing and shipping and things like that. So his name is Carl Gene Kirster. If you're able to find him on Facebook, I think he's only really on Facebook. He's an older gentleman, so I don't think he does all the Instagram and things like that. But he does dog training and all this other stuff. And as far as taking care of me, taking care of the monitor community, or even reptile people within California, Northern California, Southern California, he can basically ship to all of us for a very, very decent price on food items that may cost you an arm and a leg in these times. Everything has gone up. Just the shipping and freight to ship someone's dog and cat food to feed their rats, or the bedding alone, wood has gone up. So what else is going to go up? Everything that comes with it. Just to mention, shipping and freight has gone up so much that it's made everything go up. Everything.
I agree with you.
And
so just for the listeners out there, real quick, Alex had to drop off. He's messaging me. So, but yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. But he asked, "Hey, can we do it again when I'm actually at a computer?" So, Kai, I think we'll have him out again where things are a little more stable.
Yeah,
and
we'll try to get John in here too. It'd be a party, man.
Man, yeah, that would be good stuff.
Kind of miss hearing his accent. We're all like California like, and he's like,
yeah.
I don't even want to mock him.
That would be a lot of fun. On that note, I guess we'll wrap it up here. And Kai, where can everybody find you? I think you mentioned a little bit in where you're at, but where can people find you?
Yeah. I'm on YouTube as a Mangrove Mecca. That's a Mangrove space Mecca, MCCA. You can find me on Instagram at big _ lizard 103. And you can find me on Facebook just under Kai Fan. That's KHAI. Last name PHAN, as in Nancy. And I'm much more responsive on Facebook than anything else. So if you were needing to message me or get a hold of me, don't get me wrong, I'll come to Instagram, but Facebook happens to be my go-to.
Mm-hmm.
And you, man?
You can find me at Origins Reptile on Facebook and Origins _Reptile on Instagram. That'd probably be the best ways to get a hold of me. You can always go ahead and send me a message with any questions. I usually get back to you. Sometimes I get a little busy, of course, with everything going on, but I do like helping out, getting back to people. And just Alex fell off, but give him a chance, to get his plug in there. Go ahead. If you don't know Sim Container, look up Sim Container. They're used all over the world. They have a great product. I pretty much use them exclusively unless something like a clutch of carpet eggs won't actually fit in their extra large container. So I'm using sim containers pretty much for all my dwarf monitor species, my Flavies, sand monitors, anything that will fit and kind of in that range is what I'm using. And, I'm having some really good success using their products. Again, they've been used worldwide. Sometimes, you're good when the products sell out. You got to get in there quick, and you're scrambling to find who still got them in stock. So definitely, reach out. Don't hesitate when they are available. They really are good, and they go fast. So go look on their website. You can just actually do a image search on sim containers or on like Instagram, and you can see the kind of animals that they're hatching out of these things, from lizard, snake.
They're very easy to find. Basically, got a million reviews on the internet as far as just what they provide for the community in its own. And so,
right.
Quality animals, information. Just Alan and myself, John and Alex are a wealth of information.
Right.
They're just the two alone are basically guys that have helped both of us come to where we are with our own animals. And from when I was a kid and them seeing them now, I mean, they haven't missed a beat at all, and there's no smut on that record at all, and it's basically quality guys that you're working with here. So yeah, Sim Container, that's where it's at.
Yeah, check them out. All right, guys, thanks for listening, and we'll see you listen to us next time.